Hey everyone, welcome back to God Stories. This is episode 3. I'm really excited about this one. This is our first girl on the channel today, so if would everyone please welcome Abigail Viola to the channel.
Hey guys.
What's going on? All right, so if you would just tell the people just a little bit about yourself and what's going on in your life right now.
Yeah, so my name's Abigail, and I'm 20 years old, and I'm currently in nursing school at UAB. So yeah, and that's going.
All right, so if you could just tell us about the time before you committed yourself to Jesus. And I know people have like a specific time, like when they say, hey, this is when I sold out to Jesus. So just tell us about the time before that.
Yeah, so I kind of like to think about my walk with Jesus in 3 different parts because I've always grown up in church, and my parents have always made us go on Wednesdays and Sundays. Not necessarily made us, but like we wanted to, but it's always been very adamant that we go to church. And I got baptized around when I was like 13 years old, and that was more so something just we do. And I wouldn't say that it wasn't like I was committing to Christ, because I was, but it was just in a different light. I mean, when you go through things and you learn about the characteristics of God, but I didn't really understand the depth of who God was at that time. So, and I wasn't really like reading my word and just being a fully committed Christian at that point. It was just more so of, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus and this is what we do. Yeah. And so then around like my sophomore year, I got more plugged into my church at the time, and I really learned about how good Jesus was and how like, much of a friend he was. And it kind of stopped there a little bit. It was definitely a step up from where I was, and that's when I really started to like read my word, and because I just wanted to learn more about Jesus and just all that he could be. And that was when I really realized like just how good he was. But there was always something missing. Like I felt like there was a depth missing that I couldn't get, and I didn't really reach that until I came to this church. And that was around when I was 16, around there, something like that. And that's when I would say I like fully committed to Christ and was fully like, this is what I was missing. And that's when I learned like more of a reverence for God and less of he's my friend, and which he is, but there's a lot more to it than just he's your friend. And that's when I really learned that. So yeah,
that's good. All right, so when you finally like made that decision where you're saying, okay, I found where I'm supposed to be at, and I found out what my purpose really is as being a Christ follower, what like changed? Like what did you see like your life like change in like a matter of like weeks or months? Like what was that process going through like?
Yeah, so at my old church, I was hungry for something, but I didn't know what I was hungry for. I was like, I love Jesus, but something is missing. Like I don't know what it is, but I just felt like my relationship was surface level. And I don't know if there was like necessarily an interest that sparked, but it was just more so of like something's off. Like I want something else. And Oasis has always kind of like, because my uncle is a pastor here, and so it's kind of a church that's always been a part of my life, but not necessarily like we didn't really go here. But like once I started going here, I was like, they have something that I don't have, and I want it, but I don't know what it is. And I'm a very like, what's the word? Like, I like to know things before I like I like to ease in a little bit. And so it was definitely like a learning curve, because I felt like I had to learn more than like committing first. Like I wasn't one of those like, okay, let's go. Like, and so I feel like I was just curious. I was very curious and had a lot of questions. And once that interest was sparked, I was able to like reach that next level.
Yeah. That's right. So once you found like easing into it and all that stuff, how did like Jesus like really change your perspective on things? So like you say you found that what you were looking for. So how did that change your perspective on how you viewed your relationship with Jesus?
Yeah. So I think like when me and my boyfriend broke up, honestly, I realized how dependent I was on him, and I wasn't dependent on God. And I think that's something that a lot of girls deal with is they don't have their like true identity in Christ, and they have it in these worldly things, but they don't even realize that they do. And I think like once we broke up and I felt like I don't know, like, I guess the world was ending. It wasn't dramatic, but, like, that was when God, like, really chiseled me down and was like, you're insecure, and your identity is not in me, and it is not who I want you to be, and you don't see yourself the way I see you. And that's when that, like, revelation hit of, like, I am not the person that I want to be, and I don't want to be this person who constantly is dependent on others, and, like, I want to love me for me, and I want to see myself the way God sees me, and that's when I would say that really sparked.
All right, so you talked about insecurity a little bit. So once you made the decision to break up with your boyfriend and fully dive into where you found your identity in Christ, how was that process? Like, before, like, from the time you broke up with your boyfriend to from, like, hey, I can only rely on Christ, even if, you know, this relationship, if there was a future, or, you know, if there was anything like that.
Yeah. So honestly, it wasn't really me who I realized it. Like, honestly, my uncle looked at me and was like, wake up. Like, this is what is going on. And he's the one who really told me, like, this is what God's telling me that you're dealing with. And once he told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's so true. Like, I never realized that, like, that's something I was dealing with, because I'm such a people pleaser. So like, and I think a lot of girls are, and I think that's kind of where that insecurity stems from. It's just like, why, how can I cater to everyone? But you can't. Yeah. And anyways, back to your question. So I would say, like, I kind of had a moment where I was like, okay, I had this realization, but I didn't really act on it for a while. And then I got to a place of, like, I'm just tired. I was just so tired of, like, the constant, like, agging of just life in general. And I started getting in my word more, and it was just revealed to me that like, I can only be dependent on God, and I can't depend on anything else in this world except for God. Like, I'm just such a I'm very aspirated in my goals. Like, I always want to reach my goals, and I'm very goal oriented, I guess was the right word. And I'm always focused on what's next. And God was like, you need to focus on what's right here and what's right in front of you. And you can't reach these goals if you don't fix what's going on with you right now. And that's kind of where the change happened.
That's awesome. So once you found your identity in Christ, and once you fully sold out, and you're like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and like I said, this is one of my favorite questions I get to ask people, is that, you know, once you make that decision, there is a real enemy who wants to make sure you fail every single time. And there are times where, you know, trials and tribulations are going through. So if you can just talk about, once you committed to Christ, what's one, like, trial you've had to overcome and be dependent on God while you were a Christian, once you committed yourself to Jesus?
Yeah. So I would say, because, I mean, like, I wouldn't say, like, I'm delivered from insecurity, but, I mean, of course, it's something that we all still struggle with, and it's something that, I mean, the enemy's going to attack you with every single day. And I would say that once I got to college, you know, just college life was hard, just in general, of just meeting new people, because you're starting from the beginning, from meeting people, from starting your GPA over, like, just in every aspect of life, you're starting over, but you're doing it on your own. Yeah. And so I would say, like, when I moved out, that was something that was actually really tough on me. I loved it, but it was tough. And I would say, like, just the constant battle of, you have to make A's, you have to be this, just the pressure of life, it was something that really, like, hung over my head constantly, and it caused me to be very anxious all the time. And on top of that was the insecurity, and it all stemmed from the same thing, but I would say that was something that was really heightened at that moment. And I just was like, what got me through it last time, you know? And so I had to get in my word again and just come back to the root of what the problem was, and break that down again. So, yeah.
All right, so you talked about how a lot of girls deal with a lot of girls deal with insecurity, and they put their identity in other things. So what is something that, if, as a girl maybe watching this right now, what's one piece of advice you could give them, whether if it's a relationship or if it's, maybe just something else that they're putting their identity in, and saying, hey, you need to focus on who you are in Christ?
Yeah, I would say, again, as girls, we're very focused on who we want to be and our aspirations in life. And I just had to get to a point where, none of that matters unless I have Jesus. I don't have to be a nurse as long as I've got Jesus, and I don't have to have a boyfriend as long as I got Jesus. And that was the breaking point for me of, this is all I need. And once I have that, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once I have that, everything else will also fall into line. And there's such a peace about that, a supernatural peace, really, because it gets really stressful. It's very stressful of, if I don't do this, then I can't do this. And if I don't have this GPA, well, then I can't get into this school. Or if I don't have this boyfriend, then I'm never going to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And just having that peace of God's got me and God's plan is bigger than my own. And once you fully surrender, there is such a peace about that. And it's just amazing. And it's anything that I would want anybody to have, who might struggle for that, is just pray for peace and just pray for just confirmation that God's got you,
Yeah. I think one piece of advice that really helped me deal with a little bit of insecurity or dependency on people or anything like that is that a lot of people are too afraid to turn to the next chapter because they know that there's certain things not in the next chapter.
Yeah.
And so, because, there's a lot of things where we go through and, we like to be in that comfortable situation when we'd rather settle for less than settle for what God maybe has for us because it's, the unknown. And so.
Yeah. Another thing, too, I would say is I had a friend who gave me some advice, and she told me to just sit down and write all the things that you like about yourself and things that you don't like about yourself. And then next to that, sit down and write all the things that, write about the things that God sees in you.
Mm-hmm.
And that, just seeing it on paper, just, was such a great thing. It was such, I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. This just helps because it's everything on this side outweighed this side. And it was everything on this side wasn't even true. The things that I was saying about myself weren't even true. And so just little word of advice.
Yeah.
If that might help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people deal with self-doubt that it's a main that's where a lot of problems stem from is that they're not fully identified and they self-doubt themselves and they think they have to do these things to feel better or because that's what everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, the loss comes into a little bit of it. So, but if you could, for the people watching this video, give them one piece of advice that you've learned personally through your entire journey as being a Christian, dealing with insecurities and self-doubt and all that stuff. What's one piece of advice you could give somebody maybe going through that certain situation that you've been through?
Yeah, I would just say just submit and just get out of your own self and stop sitting here looking at yourself and look to God and stop looking at how can I be better? What can I do? Who can I be? And this is what I want. What does God want for you?
Mm-hmm.
Just submit and just look to Him and stop looking at yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your testimony.
Yeah.
I know it's impacted me because I've dealt with the same things a little bit as well. And I know it'll help somebody that may be dealing with the same things as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed Abigail's testimony as much as I have. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure when this video goes live that you're notified about it. So we'll see you guys in the next one.